Hey, yo, people. Fam, it's been a mad. How many hours is it? 48 hours or something? It's been a mad 3 days or so. Super League, it's not happening. This and that. Legally binding contracts. Uh, as it stands, it's not going forward, as they're saying. In my personal opinions, when I look at it back, I think it was just a power move from the clubs to kind of get UEFA to give them more peace, basically. If I'm looking at it, man, because UEFA have shown that they do have the money there, and so it's one of them ones. But yeah, let's go around. Denzel, what's your thoughts on the news breaking out right now from yesterday?
Um, I feel like you have to listen to the fans. Obviously, the majority of fans didn't want this Super League to happen. Um, I just find it interesting how everyone bands together like the Avengers to come and destroy the Super League. But when it comes to issues like racism and things like that, no one puts in this much effort. Like it irks me a lot. And another thing that irks me is the fact that UEFA are doing the exact same thing as this new Super League, and no one's getting onto them. I'm not seeing Sky get onto UEFA. I'm not seeing BT get onto UEFA. There's a lot of things that I don't like about how this has gone about. Obviously, I'm happy that the fans got what they wanted at the end of the day. I've gone on record saying that I didn't really mind the Super League too tough. But I'll get into more of my points of views as we go through the stream. But that's again just my basis.
Sarah, what's your thoughts on what's been going on the last couple of days?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of mixed messaging going on, and people just, like as you said, just jumping on a bandwagon. Like, yeah, the Super League looks like it's suspended for now, but the UEFA are just as bad as the moment. Think, where did this 4 billion come from? Like, where's it coming up? They're already addressing up plans for the 2024 season about how they're gonna work out through the highest coefficient and stuff like that. Like, we'll get into this as we go along, but yeah, I wanted to see a new competition, but just not in the way that we outlined yesterday. Yeah, it's a win-win for most of the fans, I think.
Ori, I know you're slightly disappointed with what happened the last couple of days, but what's your general thoughts on just the whole, the protests, and like people's perceived belief that is a victory right now?
Yeah, I definitely think it's far from a victory. And I feel obviously this whole saga is not over. So we're obviously going to see a lot more about the Super League, if not now, but possibly sometime in the future again. But while all this was being done, UEFA have basically sneaked in a worse format for their proposed league in 2024, and all of a sudden no one is talking about it. Quite surprising, because you see that Sky and BT, they wouldn't push this propaganda because they know that they're going to show these matches on their TV, so they can't really be bothered by it. So it all just shows you that no one really has any principles. I mean, we spoke about this yesterday. It's not really about anybody having principles, any of these. They just are upset that the money is not going into their pockets. UEFA are literally doing something, and UEFA plan to make it worse. And UEFA are already known for corruption, but they all don't seem to have a problem with it. So I don't know. They just kind of like hypnotized a lot of people. I don't know. I saw this quote yesterday that was like, it's kind of like this scenario where it's like, look into my eyes, not around my eyes. So everybody's kind of looking around what's happening with the ESL, and underneath that all, the UEFA have basically brought up a new format that's going to be worse. So it's all just very conflicting. I feel like the Prime Minister, I think FA spokesperson said that the Prime Minister got involved. Probably the major reason for the talks breaking down and all of that, because I genuinely didn't see the clubs backing out of it. It benefits them in every possible way. But yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see how it builds up. It doesn't seem to be happening as for now, though. But yeah, I guess we just have to see.
And Dan, what's your thoughts on it?
I don't really have like a strong feeling either way. Like obviously, I knew there was quite a lot of arguments against it. I mean, I had some arguments for it, which I think people overlooked quite a lot. But I don't know. To me. It's not really a massive deal if it went through or not. Like I wasn't really heavily invested in one side or another, so I didn't really feel any type of way. But as Denzel said, I think it's just interesting how people have decided to come out in full force for this, but other things that um, that are more important, they haven't said anything on. Like people have even said, people even were having a problem with footballers taking the knee and stuff like that because they're saying, it's this and it's that, but they don't have a problem with mass protests. And they claim don't bring politics into football, all this dumbness. Look who stopped the Super League, Boris Johnson. I mean, I don't know, man. I think if people are really I think for people to prove that it's not just a bandwagon that they've jumped on, they need to apply the same pressure to UEFA because the UEFA format, if we're being completely honest, the UEFA format is just built on greed as well, like this new format. So I think people need to apply the same pressure to UEFA. I think Arsenal, United, and Liverpool fans probably should try and ride the momentum of this to get their owners out. And I think Florentino Perez has a lot of work to do to try and get out of this if he is going to anyway.
Just what's it called, to look at the concept that's around that fans won. If I'm being totally honest, I don't think they did. I generally feel like, because you actually look at it, Oriel saying it's a win-win, but you also got to look at the fact that now that UEFA's saying that there's more money, it's not even a thing where we don't really need the Super League now because they're even offering us more money. It's like a bidding war sort of vibe, innit? You get what I'm saying? It's just about getting the value that they feel like we deserve, which was the point that we're trying to say yesterday. And if UEFA are giving them more money, then the need for the Super League isn't really increased. So I don't really think the fans probably did make a difference, but I don't think it's as big as what is being made. I think it's Sky just trying to big up the fans and feel like, we were all united and stuff like this. But Sky and BT really only had their own propaganda at their hearts rather than the interests of the fans. But like Dan was saying, Denzel, different energies. But I mean, it just showed that people don't have the same energies for different topics. That's how it is. They value their clubs more than real life issues. And unfortunately, that's how it is. But just to ask around, do you guys actually think the fans won, or do you think it was just nonsense? Denzel?
They think they won, but the same thing is, like you said, the exact same thing's happening with UEFA. We've just seen how West Ham can finish 5th in the league and qualify for Europa, and Man United can finish 6th in the league and we get Champions League football. Is that not what they've just been protesting against? And UEFA are going to do the exact same thing, and people eating up. No one's complaining about it. We can act like we won. We can say, "Oh yeah, we won. We stopped the Big Six. We stopped all these big corporations, these big teams. We stopped Perez, all of that." But we as a whole, we didn't really win too tough because the same stuff is still going on. I want to quickly make a point about the owners and Woodward. I think in terms of that, we did win. We won in terms of that. Ed Woodward leaving Man United is such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Can I say something,
Woodward.
Can I say something? But from the reports, it was already signed that he was going to leave anyway. And this is what I wanted to talk about the fans as well, is that Edward leaving the UEFA board might have just been a tactic anyway, because he knew that he was going to leave anyway. So he just accelerated everything. So it was already part of a plan, so they could afford to do, if you get what I'm saying.
That's based on reports. They're conflicting reports, because I've heard that the Super League is one of the key reasons why he's resigned. But just him going in general is a big deal for us as Man United fans, because he's ruined our club. He's been a terrible, terrible, terrible vice chairman, or whatever the hell you want to call him. He doesn't care about our club. Really cares about money. Puppet for the Glazers, to be fair. So I'm not satisfied with just Ed Woodward going. I want the Glazers out as well, because if Woodward was just a puppet for the Glazers, essentially. But I feel like this whole Super League thing, It's put a lot of pressure on the American owners. We've seen Kroenke out trending on Twitter, FSG out trending on Twitter. We've seen Glaze Out trending on Twitter. Obviously, we've seen this before, but I feel like there's a lot more push behind getting these Americans out of the sport. Hopefully, we can get in better owners that will actually invest in the club rather than use the club to gain money. Because I feel like now that this ESL thing has failed, it's been in the works for a long time. I feel like that was one of the main reasons why the American owners were holding onto these clubs. And now that the ESL has crumbled, where do they go from here? I feel like they have to. So yeah.
Sarah, what's your thoughts on the rhetoric that fans have won? Do you agree with it?
Yeah, I mean, like yesterday, Chelsea's a good example. Like all the fans, big uproar. Petr Cech getting involved. I don't know what he's, some student exec, part-time goalkeeping coach, who knows, spokesperson. But I think everyone jumped on this bandwagon thinking like this is the end and it will stop here. Like we said this yesterday as well. We need external regulators, and regardless that don't have anything to do with football, but it can just analyze each football club, give them their respective caps of where they should be selling or where they should be buying, etc. Because one thing is we don't want the government to start ruling over everything because it's gonna mess everything up. Fans will start complaining in the end of this season about these new UEFA rules because we were going to see a new Champions League format coming to obviously allow more widespread competition. But fans will start complaining about that. Exactly what Denzel said about West Ham and Man United. This highest coefficient thing and based on history. I think we saw FSG's. Henry talk about how sorrow he was as well. He's not going to leave now. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I personally feel like as well, this is a bit of a side point, but they should be banned. They should just be banned because they had the intentions in the first place. Either they get banned or they leave, in my opinion. That's what's got to happen.
What?
Well, who's getting banned? Who's getting banned?
The top six owners.
Oh, the owners.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against. Yeah, I'm in support of that. I can't stand them.
No, banning them.
Chelsea and City fans aren't.
Because Chelsea and Man City fans will claim, "Oh, we were back down, but we came out first. We were the two that showed initiative." No, you're just as bad as them as well.
Exactly. I don't like how Chelsea and City were trying to save face, acting like they were the saviors of football. No, you weren't. You were in it. You were in it just as much as the other clubs.
Yeah. But yeah, Ori, what's your thoughts on the whole fan thing?
Fans are kind of confused in terms of what they want, because I saw a tweet yesterday and someone basically goes like, "Oh, Abramovich, thank you for everything you've done, bringing money and buying all these players and getting us titles and stuff, so we forgive you," or something like that. So you've just contradicted yourself by saying that he's literally doing exactly what everybody is complaining about, and owners just coming in with money and just making the game kind of unfair for people. Fair enough. Today I also saw Mbappe to Liverpool trending as well. So you're literally just arguing. You're literally just arguing literally something that you're opposing for, but you're arguing the side of it. To me, it doesn't really make sense. So fans thinking that they've won is just, what? I'll be honest and say that the Super League and Perez and all of them, I think I said this yesterday, we all obviously know that their incentives are also not pure as well. So to me, I've never really looked at this scenario as two, like one good guy and one bad guy. I've never literally looked at this scenario as it. I've literally both looked at it like there are no winners per se, but we are currently in a system of corruption with the UEFA, and something new was most likely going to be better. Now, I had a lot of people say that we don't know how the Super League would have turned out. We don't know how Perez would have been. We don't know how he would have been handled, which is true. But are you literally saying that we should just stay in the same current system just because of the fact that we're afraid of change? And yeah, so there's so many things that we could have broken down, so many Sky, BT, UEFA, FIFA, the FA. I mean, everyone was literally scrambling. We were so close to actually making progress, depending on how you look at it. Even if you found the Super League negative, But the fact that we were going to break down all these establishments just by the fact of doing that, it was obviously still going to be progress either way. So maybe when you've passed that line, then we could now decide how we could now change the Super League, make it more, accommodating of other clubs and stuff like that after we've first passed that barrier. But no one just wanted the possibility of it. Everybody just said, no, 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 we need to stay in the same way we are. And that's the reason why UEFA and FIFA would continuously be able to do whatever they want. I made a tweet saying that UEFA and FIFA can literally do anything and nobody cares because everybody just wants to keep the game the same way. So, and now they basically promoted it to us with the notion that, oh, we're saving the game. Join us in saving the game. You're not saving any game.
Changes need to be made regardless.
You are what is ruining the game. So you're literally like, it's so messed up to me. It's quite ironic if you think about it. But I've always said time will tell. So I'm just going to give it time. And eventually, when UEFA break down even more and people start saying, or maybe we actually should have, considered the Super League, then, then everybody would, but it's just kind of a thing where I'll just say, let's be patient and just see how everything plays out. Well, yeah.
And Dan, what's your thoughts on the whole thing that fans have saved football as Sky Sports are doing it?
I mean, I hate to rain on everyone's parade, but let's be honest, I think we all know that that's not true. And if they did, then it's a hollow victory because all you need to do is look at UEFA's new format. Like, fans complain that it's not based on merit, but UEFA's new format includes a similar, maybe even
higher coefficient,
the same model, based on coefficient. Like, I mean, what have you won? Let's really ask, what's been won? Like, UEFA is doing the same thing. If we really care about it, then we need to put it to UEFA as well. We have to. And as for the narrative coming from Sky and BT, as we said yesterday, man, you shouldn't really listen to them guys on this topic because they have a vested interest. And I think that goes for everything. Don't listen to people who have vested interest in stuff because obviously they're not going to give you an unbalanced view. And I mean the protests outside the Stamford Bridge, and although I respect the fans' right to protest and this and that, I wouldn't say that was the reason that football was saved, and that was the reason why the Super League was stopped. I think it was just overall fan pressure rather than that immediate one outside the bridge. So I don't know, this narrative that fans save football, I'm not really buying into it myself. If people want to run with that, that's fine. But you need to, if we really want to make sure that football is not, if that football is a meritocracy, then we need to make sure that the UEFA doesn't go through with the proposed changes, because this coefficients is defeats the point. Like this defeats the whole. People's main criticism of the Super League was that teams like Arsenal, Spurs didn't deserve to be there based on their league position. But based on this new coefficient rankings, them teams will get in there based on their coefficient. So I don't like how this narrative has been paraded around. Another thing that I don't like is how people like Gary Neville are championing it and taking credit as if they saved football, which I think is I don't know. I think that's very ironic that Sky are claiming that the good guys won. There's no good guys in this. No one's a good guy. It's not good versus evil, but everyone involved is bad. UEFA is bad. The Big Six owners are bad. Sky are bad. BT are bad. No one's a good guy. Like, UEFA managed to pull 4 billion euros from their back pocket.
Shut them up.
No one's saying anything about that. 4 billion euros just gone missing, gone walkabouts, and no one has any questions. These are the good guys. There's serious questions that need to be asked, because
I remember they were offering the Big Six money to.
They bribed the Big Six. They bribed the Big Six to leave the Super League, and people don't have a problem with that. Come on. I don't like to speculate, but if we're really being honest, that could have been the Big Six intention the whole time, to just use this Super League as leverage to. And who's won there? Who's really won there? Because the Big Six have come back into the Premier League with a new pot of money that they've got essentially for no reason. And UEFA has shown that they're partial to bribes, essentially, as if we didn't already know that. That this I think the narrative that fans have saved football. If we really want fans to save football, then we need to address other things. And I want to say shout out and big ups to West Ham, because West Ham came out and said we need to keep this energy for racism. So I want to say West Ham, well done to West Ham. And if people really want to save football, then maintain this energy for situations that matter. Maintain this energy for corruption. Maintain this energy for the Qatar World Cup. Maintain this energy for racism, for all these different problems in football. Like this is just, if you want to save football, then this is just the start. You need to go and make sure that the bigger problems are assessed, because this wasn't a problem. Let's be honest. This was no problem at all for football. This didn't threaten the future of football. Come on. Stuff like racism does. Corruption threatens the future of football. If you really want to save football, then address them.
And what the guy said about Perez? Perez didn't give an interview yesterday, innit?
Yeah, he was in a meeting with the owners.
Yeah, apparently it's today though. So
it's today.
Yeah.
So all right then. So we're gonna have to see what he's gonna say, because maybe that's the final nail in the coffin, whatever he says, really, because he is the chairman of it. But I had something in my head and it just left. I just forgot it. But anyway. It's just been a mad 3 days, man. Literally. But the thing about the government getting involved, I think that's probably something they didn't really see coming though. The government getting involved, because
he didn't legislate for that, Perez.
Yeah, I don't think they did, man. I wasn't expecting it to get. Actually, I don't know. The UK, we love our football clubs.
Yeah, but priorities. I don't even mean to get political, but priorities. If football is the thing that you're getting involved in, that is a madness.
I don't know, man.
See, we're in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic, and his main focus is on football. He should be focusing on COVID, and he's fixed this issue within how many days? Less than 2 days. But there are other issues that the government needs to focus on. They're not looking at that.
They're probably thinking a collective outrush of loads of protests, fans going mental, the economic implications. Generally speaking, they're probably thinking about that and thinking about how England is the birthplace of football. They're thinking about the roots.
So again, it's all about money.
Essentially, yeah.
Money.
This is why we need some sort of external regulator, just in general, for all these different
100%.
issues.
But how do you get an external regulator without them having
bodies that are in place? But then they're nowhere near to the scale that we would need this to be at. It would basically be a European commission or something that would overlook everything.
They don't even have to be football related. They can just be related.
A financial regulator. That makes no sense.
They just have to be. They don't even have to be related to football. They could just be an independent sector that just relates to finances and maintaining equity within clubs.
Yeah,
that's fair. Let's look at the long-term repercussions and let's speculate on that. How badly do you think this has ruined the Big Sixes, or even, as they like to say, the Dirty Dozen, their reputation? How badly do you think it's ruined it, Sarah?
Ruin their future,
their reputation, how we perceive them.
I mean, from a general perspective, I think fans are going to be calling for mass fines, breaches, points deductions, and stuff. But obviously, we can't blame the players and the managers, because it's we've seen Tuchel's and Klopp's interviews. They didn't really have a say. They didn't really know what was going on, and it disrupted the football itself. All their in-game tactics and preparation for the games was disrupted because of the Chelsea protests and stuff like that. So
you can see in the games were poor.
Exactly, they were tired of it. Maybe to do with the future, I think we made this point yesterday. I think on the group chat, the long-term futures. All these Saudis and stuff, they could come in and quite rightly buy Man United and the Newcastle thing that went on. They could quite easily become one of the top 7. So we're just going to have a new branch of problems that are just going to come up with regards to this. And the reputation stuff, I reckon fans are going to keep going on and on and on about how they should be deducted and stuff and the fines breached. But now, if you look at fans for the top 6 clubs, as long as they start investing the money that they've got from UEFA now, the 4 billion and stuff, they're not going to have a problem with it. They're seeing stuff like, oh, if you sign Mbappe and Haaland, we'll be happy about it. That's so hypocritical. When will this vicious cycle stop? It won't.
Yeah. Can I piggyback off what Sarah said?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go.
Because I saw one tweet. Someone was like, "Oh, we'll forgive FSG.
Yeah.
They sign us Mbappe and Haaland." I'm thinking, what? I'm thinking, what? Because think about it. You've just protested against these people making a big 6 in which their clubs are going to get more money, and now you're telling them you're going to forgive them if they go out and sign the most expensive players. So when they want to make more money, you don't like it. When they've said, okay, we're going to come out of this, now you're saying, oh, we'll forgive you if you sign us the biggest players that cost the most money. It doesn't make any sense. People are being hypocrites when it comes to the financial aspect of it as well. And another thing is, people can't expect the big 6 to have amazing transfer windows as well. That's one thing I want to say. Because of previously, like, we've gone to like certain teams having bad transfer windows. But now they've actively tried to solve the issue of the finances by making this big 6, making this ESL league, in which it would get more money and in which it would enable them to spend more money in the transfer windows. You've come out and said, the fans have come out and said, okay, we don't want you to do that. Now, when it comes to the summer, you're going to be complaining and saying, oh, my club's not signing this player, my club's not spending enough money on these teams. But when they try to make more money, you won on it. So we can't have fans complaining about clubs not investing in players when they've tried to create more money to invest in players and you didn't like that. I feel like there needs to be realism when it comes to this transfer window coming up, because I guarantee you Man United are not going to be spending a lot of money in this transfer window. Arsenal aren't going to be spending as much because we're in a pandemic. They've said with their chest that we've lost money because of this pandemic, and people are just expecting the money to come out of thin air. When they've proposed something to give you money, you didn't like it. So we can't be expecting teams to go crazy in the windows.
And with hindsight, the pandemic argument, how it was bad timing, it could work both ways because it could have massively benefited those clubs' opportunities in the transfer window.
100. Ori, what's your thoughts on the Big 6's reputation moving forward?
Yeah, I just think like there's obviously going to be a lot of like hate and stigma across the Big 6, and not just the Big 6, obviously the other teams involved in the Super League. I saw some reports yesterday saying that the Champions League are going to make the competition very hard for Real Madrid, which is kind of concerning. How can you make a competition hard for someone without bad refereeing possibly? But obviously we know that's where UEFA thrive the most in. So it's just a case where it's just like things are going to be difficult for the big teams generally in how they play and stuff like that, and possibly in refereeing too. I mean, it could get a whole lot worse. Obviously fans are obviously still all going to go to the stadium when everything comes back, so that's not going to really be a huge problem in terms of finances. So yeah, their reputations has obviously been stained, but you know, in football, I feel like a lot of people forget things very quickly. So I wouldn't give it too long before people just move on, and possibly there'll be a new thing that people will start talking about very soon. And people just forget about the Super League. So I don't see it doing too much to the reputation. Yeah, nothing really else much to say about that. I think they'll be fine in terms of how people will react to it moving forward. But yeah, that's just it.
And Dan, what's your thoughts on their reputations?
I don't think it's really taken any difference at all. Like, I think non-Big 6 teams hated the Big 6 before the Super League. Non-Big 6 teams will hate the Big 6 after the Super League. Big 6 teams have hated their owner before the Super League. Well, apart from City and Chelsea, Big 6 fans will hate their owners after the Super League. Nothing's really changed, if we're being honest. Like, in terms of the reputation, I think the only thing, as Ori said, the only thing that might change is UEFA and how certain games are favoured and influenced. Let's just put it like that. Because Real Madrid are, I think they are right now like the biggest enemies of UEFA. Like UEFA will allegedly, I think UEFA will do all they can to stop Real Madrid winning the Champions League this year, because that would be very, very embarrassing for them if Real Madrid were to win the Champions League. But I don't know. I don't think the Big Six walk out of this any different at all. Like, the only thing that I think is exposed to non-Big Six fans is why a lot of these teams don't like their owners. That's the only thing I think is really exposed. But I mean, them fans won't care because it doesn't affect them anymore. Like, that's just how football is right now. As long as something doesn't affect you, you don't care about it. Like, and
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but football's a selfish game, and people only care about their team and their vested interest. And like, we can see that with all the reaction to the Super League, really, because I mean, there was a lot of Super League fans who were happy because it would benefit their team massively. Like, it meant that they can go out and buy these big new players. And then there was a lot of non-Big Six fans that weren't happy because obviously it's not fair in terms of they're not involved and they wouldn't get as much money. But as Denzel said, like, there's a lot of hypocrisy in terms of why people are how people view the Big Six, especially coming from their own fans. Like, the Liverpool fans saying, "We'll forgive you if you get Mbappe and Haaland," in my opinion, is a crazy, crazy statement. But I mean, it is where it is at this point. Like, I don't think anything in terms of the footballing world has changed in terms of their reputation. But we'll see how time goes on.
I think the stigma will probably always stay with them that they're selfish, and I think it's always been there, but it'll probably be more like you will see a lot more people remember this. But in terms of it staying with them forever, I don't think it will. Like, with everything in life, everything moves on. There will always be a new issue.
I think that Chelsea and Man City have done some incredible PR. Incredible. I have to applaud them. Incredible PR, because for years they've been the clubs that have, by general consensus, they've been the clubs that have ruined football. Everyone says Chelsea, City, PSG, they've ruined football. And in the space of 48 hours, they've gone from adding to that narrative that they're ruining football to completely changing it and being the saviors of the game, the saviors of the beautiful game, the good guys, the team with the morality, which is incredible in my opinion. Like, I think I need to applaud them, because this is the PR that has been done by them teams. They've outdone themselves, really.
I hear that, man. I never understood it when fans were like, Roman actually cares. He does care about football, innit? But like,
he doesn't care about the fans.
Still,
none of these owners
He doesn't care about the fans. He doesn't care about. He's business motivated.
Yeah,
really
one of them ones. Man still signed up for it in the first place. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
that's one thing I didn't understand.
I saw pictures of the protest yesterday, and I saw a Chelsea fan up with money can't buy fans. I mean, it's kind of ironic, because it's just like, after Abramovich, obviously there would have been a lot of Chelsea fans that, you know, eventually came because of Chelsea's success. Not saying all of them are obviously Chelsea fans because of success, but there are obviously a lot of Chelsea fans who are there because of the success. So I don't know why everyone denies or acts like they don't like money, they don't want money in the club, they don't really care how it comes about, as long as there's being money pushed into the club. So this whole narrative of, you know, the money, you know, can buy dreams, money can buy, it's just very funny to me. I mean, Bruno also puts up something, money can buy dreams, but I mean, money literally bought your dream. If you think about what it means, I don't know, it's just very ironic to me. Like, literally all of them are just like, everybody just being so hypocritical about.
You see the footballers after it was nuts. Oh, that was quick, low, or like, it's just some random, like.
No, but I want to
knew.
They were all selling when it was happening, but
Yeah,
exactly. That's my point. That's my point.
Man.
Yeah, a lot of them are passengers.
I feel that's more of them not being able to talk, though, because of obviously they have contracts signed with clubs and that, so they need to go through stuff before they can just say anything and stuff like that.
And one thing, we don't know what happens behind closed doors, innit? Because obviously the Athletic were reporting how United players were doing a madness and all that. So you never know. Some of these players might have been.
He really spoke up, Luke Shaw.
And Harry Maguire too, apparently. And Bruno as well. Yeah, Captain Maguire.
It's one of them ones. It's one of them ones, yeah. But I mean, we always said, this was the natural evolution of where football was going, man. Like, as soon as you bring in a lot of people with money, the demand is gonna get to more and more money. It's one of them ones. But to finally round it off, let's talk about ownerships now of the big six. So we can rule out City and Chelsea from having any issues. Liverpool's owners have said that they don't plan to leave, but I think the main two are United and Arsenal. So I'm going to start with the United and Arsenal fans. I'm going to start with Dan. Do you think this has pushed the momentum to get Kroenke out, and how much of a difference do you think this will make?
The only reason why I think it has is because of how big this situation has been and how many people have been involved. Like, for example, Ian Wright came out yesterday and said Kroenke out. For the club, that is a massive, massive person to say, because he's been involved in ad campaigns. He's always doing club promotional videos. He's very involved in the club, very involved. And he's a big figure. He's always on TV. So I think it depends how Arsenal fans, because this could all die out. Like, this has happened so many times with Arsenal fans. We've held massive Kroenke out and nothing's happened. And I think just tying in United as well and Liverpool, I saw John Barnes was speaking about it, and he said that, like, when people are speaking about these American owners, they say, these American owners, they need to understand about that football's about the fans. They need to understand how the fans view football. But as John Barnes said, like, when you bring these guys into football, these guys are businessmen. These businessmen don't need to understand the fans. The fans need to understand the businessmen, because they're not going to see it as a sport. They see it as an investment. There's no way that they're going to see it as like, we need to cater to the fans. They don't care. So Arsenal fans need to ride this momentum and get Kroenke out, because this is, I think, the closest we'll ever get really to getting Kroenke out. And as for United, I think United might be closer than Arsenal are, because Woodward's already gone. Whether he was going to go or not, we don't know. But Woodward's already gone. And there's quite a lot of dismay in terms of, we've had reports that United players were actively against this Super League. United fans have been divided for a long time with a lot of the Glaze Outs protests. Obviously, Gary Neville went on TV yesterday talking about scavengers, which, I mean, he should have done a long time ago, but how and whatever. But them two teams, I think, are the teams that, if the owners are going to sell, it would be them. Spurs fans, although I sympathise with you, you've just bought a new stadium. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, Levy doesn't
Spurs
need
are
to
not
sell.
serious, man. Get out of here, man. You don't need new owners, bro. Come on, man. Rubbish.
And Liverpool, your owners, I don't know. I just think that they don't need to sell as much. Like, they just won the Premier League last year, the Champions League. So they'll see it as like, why do we need to sell? We got you lot back to the top. And they even saved Liverpool. When they came in, they saved Liverpool. So they have quite a lot of leverage. Whereas Kroenke and the Glazers have no leverage at all. None.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think this would be the best and the quickest way for both sets of clubs to really get their owners out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ori, what about you? What's your thoughts on the Kroenke? Do you think this has enough momentum to get him out, or just another?
Honestly, I don't think so, to be honest. Honestly, I think the initial plan was always for Josh Kroenke, that's his son, to obviously take over in running of the business for Arsenal and stuff like that. But in terms of him selling, I really don't see that happening. I mean, this has happened a lot of times. I think there's going to be a protest at the Emirates, I think this Friday or something. But to me, it's just happened way too many times. I do eventually think this will just blow over again. Yeah, I just see. The thing is that this Super League would have benefited us hugely. I think Dan was talking about it yesterday, about how Kroenke doesn't take money from us, or he just doesn't really invest in Arsenal and stuff like that. So this Super League would have been money that would have just been getting and would have been able to invest by ourselves without having any complications. So as it stands, though, I do obviously think that with the way we've moved from funds around, we've obviously cleared up a lot of wage bills, like Ozil leaving, Mustafi, all of that. And with the players that are expected to go and all of that, if the money is managed properly and stuff like that, we can obviously be a very balanced club moving forward. Because now I think the most expensive person in our wage bill is probably Aubameyang. And I don't really think anyone else really earns like any ridiculous amount of money. So we've obviously fixed up our wage structure. We don't have someone earning like 350k like we did for Ozil. And we've obviously let a lot of players go, so we've fixed up a lot of things. So in my opinion, I really didn't mind having Stan for this window, and I'm obviously still not going to mind that. He doesn't take money from us. We just need to know how to invest money properly this summer. I've seen a lot of people say that they want Dangote to come in. I'm not really a huge fan of that. Obviously I'll never know how we would actually run the club, but like everyone always says, like I think Dan was just talking about now, I'd honestly rather not have a fan, run the club. Like, let's be real. You want obviously someone who's kind of more business motivated. I know probably a lot of people disagree with that. They feel like the owner should be a fan, but the owner should just be someone who knows how to run a club properly, whether or not they're a fan or not. So, and it's obviously been very successful for Chelsea, and it's been successful for City. I mean, Abramovich doesn't even know anything much about football or stuff like that. He's just very business motivated, and it's obviously worked well for Chelsea. So yeah, that's probably just what I'm looking at right now. But in terms of him leaving or him, selling the club, honestly, I don't see it happening. If it does, obviously that would be huge for Arsenal, because honestly, I don't want him, as our owner. But it's a case where I wouldn't mind going into him this transfer window, or at least for the nearest future. It's not a huge concern for me. But obviously, if there's any right time, if there's any good time to get him, to go, probably this would be the best time. So I guess that's why everybody's just pushing it now. And if it works, then good for us. I guess we'll hopefully get a better owner and not a worse owner, because nothing is stopping us from getting an owner who could be worse than Kroenke as well, which would just set us, many years backward. But I guess we just have to see.
Mm-hmm. And what you're saying about owners and businessmen, like, I think the crucial thing, even if they're businessmen, is that they want to win. I think that's the most important thing, because you might not understand football as much, but if you just know that, I want to see this team.
Yeah, that's the way.
Because you saw with Abramovich, if you didn't get the Champions League, hey, go, you're gone. Yeah. That was Abramovich, really. So it's one of them ones. But yeah, Denzel, what's your thoughts on the Glaze Out protests, and do you think there's enough momentum to get them out?
I don't think it's about momentum, to be honest, because it's, regardless of whether we want the Glazers in or the Glazers out, it's all about money. The Glazers don't care if we do marches, protests, if we do hashtag Glazers out. They're sitting comfy in America doing what they're doing. They don't give a toss about the fans. They don't care about us in any way, shape, or form. There are ways in which fans can push towards them leaving, like, for example, not investing as much into the club as we do currently, because it's all about money at the end of the day. The only way I see the fans impacting the Glazers leaving is, like, say the fans don't buy tickets to go to games, which isn't going to happen, or fans stop buying jerseys, which isn't going to happen. So there are things that you can do to stop the Glazers from leaving, but it's do you want to make that sacrifice to for it to be done? With the Glazers, they have other assets. They have, like, I think they own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They own an NFL team in America as well. So they have other forms of cash. I can see them selling, I can see them selling, but not for the reasons of momentum or fans being angry. It's just, if the money comes in, they'll sell. And another thing I want to mention is this whole ESL thing. I think I mentioned it previously in the stream. They've been working towards this for a long time, and I think the Glazers were hoping, they had their bets on this ESL thing being a big cash cow for them. The fact that it's not going to go ahead, I think, will make it easier for them to sell the club, because they've probably been holding on to that, thinking, if we do this European Super League, we're going to make tons of money. And it not going through probably gives them more incentive to sell the club, because if they know they're going to not make as much money as they would have if we stayed in the Super League. So if the right owner comes about, obviously Man United is a very attractive outfit. Well, arguably the biggest club in England. Obviously I'm biased, so I'll say we're the biggest club in England, but it's an attractive club to buy. So we won't have a problem finding buyers It's just whether it's enough money for the Glazers to sell it. So yeah.
I hear that, man. So, what's your thoughts on the whole getting the owners out of the club? And I
Yeah.
know West Ham have their own things, but what are you saying about it as well?
Yeah, I'll take a different approach. Like, obviously, I think the investment in the COVID market would have been low anyway from maybe Liverpool, Man United, and Arsenal. I think, like, for example, Liverpool, the club's now worth like 6 or 7 times more than because they nearly went to administration, didn't they? They came back from being a mid-table side for like consecutive years. Man United as well, like, obviously Woodward's gone, and I think personally, yeah, they will be maybe the first ones to get new ownership. But the way I look at it is, we've seen City and Chelsea. City have built fast infrastructure. They've built all these massive training facilities. They've got this massive group internationally. They've built that infrastructure. Chelsea, as cutthroat as you want, you know, that he wants success quickly as possible. So would you guys, as all, you know, club fans of clubs who obviously are looking to get rid of your owners, would you want that sort of like that new cutthroat businessman, like, obviously not as a fan like Ore said, but someone who's gonna, I mean, jet loads of money in, and wouldn't that just go hand in hand against what we've been talking about, having a more balanced football?
But the game that's been happening though, and that's why I was pro Super League. Well, not even pro Super League. That's what I saw in favor of the Super League, because like as of right now, and that's what I was saying on the group chat, like, it's not fair that Chelsea, Man City, and even PSG can literally like ignore FFP and have done it for years and years and years, and then clubs like Arsenal, Spurs, even Man United, essentially, like, these teams are not on the same wavelength. Like, you can't expect Arsenal. I'll use Arsenal as a perfect example, because we've been on this self-sustainable model for 15 years now. So you can't expect Arsenal to compete year in year out with Chelsea and Man City when they're spending much more than us. Like I said yesterday, City spent since 2008, City have spent £1 billion more than Arsenal in transfer fees. £1 billion. You can't expect us to compete with them, but Sky Sports and BT Sports and the fans see it as fair. So if they see it as fair, let's run.
Then all
We'll play that game
the other
as well.
4 teams should do it if it's fair.
If it's fair, we'll play that game as well.
Why Saudis couldn't pick up Newcastle? They could become one of the top 7 clubs.
That's my point. That's why I say it's selfish. People only care when it affects their team. The Newcastle fans were rubbing their hands together. They were even putting the Saudi flag in their names on Twitter when they thought the Saudis were going to take over and bring them to the top. When they thought Mbappe was going to come to St. James's Park. But I mean, it is what it is, man. Bring the Saudis to the Emirates. We need them.
No, none of you guys are. No one's going to complain if you get that sort of ownership. Because you know you'll.
I don't know. I think with Arsenal it's a different story. Like Arsenal, and I hate to sound like a victim and try and make us seem like we're this. Oh, I feel sorry for Arsenal, but we can never seem to do anything right. Like never. Whatever Arsenal do will be picked up by the media and scrutinized. Whereas I mean, other clubs can do whatever they want.
I'll be honest here. I'll say we're kind of hypocrites. Like not us. I'm saying United fans, maybe us, all the fans that took the piss out of Man City and Chelsea for being oil clubs or
100%.
All hypocrites now, because look at us 100%. Now. We're on our knees for a Saudi to come and save.
I'll tell you, the only reason I took the piss because I was jealous.
You know what?
I was jealous that my club's not spending 300
million. If Man City and Chelsea weren't doing it, or PSG, and then I don't think everyone would just say, okay, you know, we're not all too far from the same level in terms of how we're doing the transfer window and stuff like that. But the gap between Chelsea and not even Chelsea sometimes it's not, but Man City's one is quite ridiculous if you think about it. Like they can field out arguably like 3 teams, and the 3rd team would probably be enough to finish mid-table in the Premier League. So it's just quite crazy if you think about that. Like the gap between how much they spend compared to other people is just very, like, how do you expect us to compete? They won, this will be their 3rd title in the last 4 years now, for, you know, a league that's not even a league that's possibly, you know, marketed as being open, you know, anybody can win it kind of thing. But really, can anyone really win it? Because if City are spending everything, I mean, they've also spent money on one of the best managers in the world as well. So, I mean, you know, what's stopping them? They can literally dominate for as long as they want. So how is that fair in any way? Isn't that what the Super League is was fighting. Isn't that what people were fighting against? That they don't want clubs to just be at the top. They want it to be open, but it's not open as it stands. Isn't that what the can't remember who said it, but the Juve AC Milan Inter thing where they're like, oh, doesn't that mean the quote was like, doesn't that mean that Juve Inter and AC Milan would always be at the top? And the guy's like, well, aren't they already?
Yeah,
Agnelli.
yeah.
Like the gap is already too much, So
They were going for the quadruple. Every time they go top of the league, they go for the people say they can do the quadruple. If you can't see that as a problem,
I spoke about that. Yeah, when I said I don't think people still realize how crazy it is that a side can be tipped for 4 trophies every season. Like, do you know how good you have to be for that to be, or how far in the competitions you have to go for that to be? They always finish off the league like when it's 10 games left or something like that. I think it was just out of their 3 in the last 4. It was only that season with Liverpool where it was close. The season where they got the 100 points. I mean, it was so they literally have lost so many games that season, and they would still have won the league. So it's just ridiculous to me, in terms of that. So that's why no one would mind, obviously. But if everyone was obviously the same level and everyone was doing the same, everybody would say, okay, let's all keep on grinding and fighting the same way we do. But no one should just be allowed to just come in, take over the team, start spending so much money and stuff like that, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, that's why I feel like a lot of people wouldn't mind, But yeah,
you can't have it both ways. So one or the other.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crumbling even more though. We're seeing Atleti and Inter have just left as well. Confirmed.
Yeah. It's done. It's done. It's just dead.
Yeah.
Apparently they want to bring it in a new format. I don't know how that's going to work, but
we'll see. I feel like if they allow for the Super League, if they allow clubs to get relegated and clubs to be promoted, then I think people will have less of an issue with it, because you can't use the greed example anymore, because you wait for doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
The greed example is completely gone out of the window. I don't want to hear, they're ruining football, they're killing football because of.
You know what I actually thought they were going to do? I thought they would obviously kick off with the 12 teams or the 15 or however, and then from then on, those teams could get relegated. But as the start of the competition, they will include them in. So I was obviously a bit surprised by the format. I did think it was quite harsh, but he obviously did have a lot of good ideas regarding on how to change and improve the game. But I guess it was just that format that just made everybody just really But now UEFA are doing the same thing in 2024. No one is really talking about that now. Everybody has gone cold. So I don't know what the issue is then. So I guess we just have to see.
Same thing. Every team is guaranteed 10 games. 1 league instead of groups. Like, it's just the same thing. It's like 16
games. Exact same games. Like overall.
Yeah. And they've added, is it how many teams in? 32 or 36? I can't remember. 36 teams. And they're going to be playing games how many times a week? Is it still once a week?
I think
it's going to be on a week.
Apparently they've added like 100 games or something. So the first 8 will go to the quarters, and then 9th to
24.
Yeah, they'll compete in the
There's a playoff thing for the
playoff kind of thing. Yeah, so I don't know.
Man, that's ridiculous. The format for the Champions League, the new one, is trash. It's worse than the Super League in my opinion, but no one's gonna complain because it's UEFA.
That's why the Spanish reporters that Florentino Perez done his interview with 2 days ago, the first interview, I saw they were doing a thing, and I think I mentioned in the group chat, and PK commented on it. He said that he was saying that the fans are celebrating that the fans have won, and he said the fans haven't won. The only people that have won here are the Qataris, Sheikh Mansour, and Roman Abramovich. And he's saying all you need to do is look at who's in the Champions League. He said there's Real Madrid, there's Chelsea, there's PSG, and Man City. And then he's like, the Super League could have kind of bridged that gap between them 3 clubs and everyone else in terms of spending. But now, because UEFA don't care about FFP, they can spend as much as they want, and it'll be them 3 competing at the top is what is the report.
I mean,
was it really actually going to bridge the gap? Wait 1 sec. Was it really going to bridge the gap? Because the money they were giving to like the founding members. Wasn't it just for the founding members? It wasn't for the 5 participating clubs that would come in. So we don't know how
No,
much.
I think it was for everyone. It was
for everybody.
everyone.
If you were in the contest, you got that money.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Actually, I can't remember now.
Any final thoughts to say? Well, we said everything that we need to.
Do wider research, do your own due diligence, and actually come up with your own summary and conclusions. Don't just look at Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher for every bit of criticism or benefit.
Tell him, Sarah.
There we go.
Then also, I actually can't remember the ninth to 24th playoff kind of thing. That would also probably mean that if you finish 9th, you could possibly not get into the last 16, because if you lose your playoff game, you wouldn't. So which means you could go a whole season trying to finish in the top 8, then maybe just miss the top 8 by 1 point,
even goal difference.
So it would literally be like the way the championship is run,
the playoff system,
which is a lower tier league compared to the Premier League, because you're meant to just finish. There's not meant to be any sort of playoff system. To me, I've never liked the playoff system. You go through a whole season trying to finish in a particular. So in the championship, you try and finish in the top 2, and let's say you miss the top 2 by 1 point.
There's 4 teams playing off against each other.
Then you now have to go up against 4 teams who probably the 6th could have been 30 points off you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I've never really liked that system as well. To me, it's definitely way worse than the Super League format. The Super League format was just going to be 10 teams, and then they pick the top 4, and the top 4 go into the quarters, and that's just how it is. So I guess we'd have to see come 2024 if a Super League hasn't been proposed again. Then we'll probably see We'll probably see how that would turn out.
Bro, it's gonna be interesting to see like how we move on from this in football. Like
It will be.
It's gonna be interesting, man. But yeah, I think that's it, man. We covered everything that we needed to cover, man. But yeah, you man know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, man. We out, people.